My daughter-in-law posted a family photo with my face circled. If you could erase one person from the family, who would you choose? I saw it at 11:47 p.m. while scrolling through Instagram. The poll had 847 votes. I was winning by a landslide. It started 3 years ago when my son married Bexley. She was sweet at first, the kind who brought homemade cookies to Sunday dinners and laughed at my husband's terrible jokes. But I noticed things, small things, how she'd rearrange my kitchen when I wasn't looking, how she'd correct my stories at family gatherings. Actually, that's not quite how it happened, she'd say with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. When their daughter Violet was born, everything shifted. Bexley made it clear I was doing everything wrong. The way I held the baby, the gifts I bought, even my presence felt like an intrusion. We need space to bond as our own family, she'd say, blocking my number for weeks at a time. My son would shrug helplessly when I asked him about it. She's just protective. You understand. I didn't understand, but I backed off anyway. Last Christmas, I wasn't invited to their house. My son brought Violet to visit me for exactly 47 minutes before Bexley texted him 7 times. I watched him check his phone with increasing anxiety, saw the exact moment he decided his wife's comfort mattered more than my loneliness. Then came the birthday party incident. Violet turned 3, and I bought her a vintage dollhouse, the kind I'd always wanted as a child. When I arrived at the party with it, Bexley's face went cold. We specifically requested no gifts, she announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. Some people just can't follow simple boundaries. She refused to let Violet open it. I left it on their porch and drove home in silence. That night, I found the dollhouse in my driveway, smashed. Someone had taken a hammer to it, but I said nothing. I swallowed it down like I'd swallowed everything else. The missed holidays, the photos of family gatherings I wasn't told about, the way my own son started using the same cold tone his wife did. When I tried to talk to him about it, he said, "You're being dramatic. Bexley's never done anything to you." So when I saw that Instagram post at 11:47 p.m., I wasn't even surprised. Just tired. So incredibly tired. The comment section was worse. Bexley's friends leaving laughing emojis. My daughter-in-law herself commenting, "The polls don't lie." I took a screenshot, sent it to my son. He read it immediately but didn't respond for 3 hours. When he finally called, his voice was defensive. "It's just a joke. You're too sensitive. This is why she has problems with you." I hung up, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table until sunrise. That morning, I logged into my computer and opened the folder I'd been building for 8 months. Photos of Bexley's social media posts, the ones where she tagged my exact location and schedule. Copies of texts where she'd sent my private medical information to her group chat. Screenshots of her telling people I was losing my memory when I wasn't. Documentation of every time she'd isolated my son from his own family. My brother's friend worked in private investigation. I called him, because here's what Bexley didn't know. I'd been documenting everything. Every manipulation, every lie, every calculated move to erase me. And that Instagram poll, that was the last piece of evidence I needed. My lawyer called back within an hour. "We have enough," she said. More than enough. I opened my laptop to an email I'd been drafting for weeks. My finger hovered over the send button. Once I pressed it, everything would change. The email would go to my son, my husband, Bexley's employer, her parents, and everyone else who needed to see exactly who she was. But more importantly, it would trigger something else. Something I'd set in motion months ago when I'd discovered the truth about Bexley's past. The real reason she'd targeted me. The cursor blinked, waiting. I pressed send. My phone started ringing immediately. I let it ring, because what Bexley didn't realize when she posted that poll was simple. She'd just declared war on the wrong person, and I'd already won. The first call was from my son. 17 missed calls in the first 10 minutes. Then my husband, then Bexley's mother. I poured myself another cup of coffee and watched my inbox fill with replies. Bexley's employer responded first. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We take harassment and privacy violations seriously." She worked in healthcare. HIPAA violations weren't something they took lightly, and I'd provided documented proof that she'd been sharing patient information with her friends. My medical information, specifically. Details about medications I was taking, procedures I'd had, all of it screen captured from her group chat. Her mother called me directly at 7:23 a.m. "What have you done?" she demanded. "I showed people the truth," I said calmly. "Something you should have done years ago." Silence. "You don't understand," she finally said. "Bexley has always been sensitive. She needs accountability," I interrupted. "And I'm giving it to her." I hung up before she could respond. My husband came home at 8:15 a.m. He'd left for his morning walk before everything started. Now he stood in the kitchen doorway, his phone in his hand, confusion written across his face. "What's happening?" he asked. "My son's been calling nonstop. He's saying you've lost it, that you're trying to destroy their marriage." I turned my laptop around so he could see the screen. The folder labeled evidence. The hundreds of screenshots, the timeline I'd built, the pattern of abuse I'd documented with timestamps and witnesses. He scrolled in silence for 11 minutes. "How long have you known?" he finally asked. 8 months since I started documenting. 3 years since I suspected. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. You said I was being too sensitive, that I needed to try harder with her." He flinched, because he remembered now. All the times I'd come to him, frustrated and hurt, and he'd taken her side. Told me I was imagining things, that I needed to give her grace because motherhood was hard. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I know." My phone rang again. This time I answered. "You evil bitch." Bexley's voice was pure venom. "How dare you send lies to my workplace? Do you know what you've done?" "I sent the truth," I said. "Screenshots don't lie. Neither do witnesses." "What witnesses?" "Your neighbors. The ones who saw you smash the dollhouse in my driveway? The restaurant staff who've watched you berate servers? Your son's pediatrician who you screamed at for 40 minutes? Your hairstylist? Your daughter's preschool teacher? Should I keep going?" Silence. "You think you're so smart?" she finally hissed. "But my son loves me. He'll never believe you. He doesn't have to believe me. He just has to read the evidence. But here's what you really don't understand, Bex. I know who you are. Who you really are." "What are you talking about?" Patricia Benson, I said softly. The line went dead. My husband looked at me. Patricia Benson? Her real name, before she changed it 8 years ago. Why would she change her name? I pulled up another folder on my laptop. This one had taken months to compile, working with the private investigator, court documents, police reports, testimony from her first husband's family. Because Patricia Benson was under investigation for elder abuse in Colorado. Her husband's mother lived with them for 6 months. During that time, the woman was systematically isolated from her family. Her medications were tampered with, and she suffered 3 suspicious falls. The family tried to press charges, but Patricia disappeared before the investigation concluded. She changed her name, moved states, reinvented herself. My husband stared at the screen. The mother-in-law died, I continued. Natural causes, the coroner said, but her family never believed it. They hired investigators but never found Patricia. Until now. You found all this? I had help, and I had motivation. Because 3 months ago, I started having dizzy spells. Unexplained drops in blood pressure. My doctor couldn't figure it out. Then I realized they only happened after Sunday dinners at their house. The dinners where Bexley insisted on making my coffee exactly how I liked it. My husband's face went pale. I had my water tested at their house. Traces of my blood pressure medication, triple my normal dose. She was crushing my pills into my drinks. That's attempted murder. Yes. That's what the police said when I filed the report yesterday. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see 2 squad cars parked on the street. My husband opened the door. The officers asked for me by name. I invited them in and handed them a flash drive. Everything's on here, I said. 8 months of documentation, police reports from Colorado, testimony from witnesses, medical records, and security footage from my son's house showing her accessing my medication. The older officer nodded. We'll need you to come to the station to give a formal statement. Of course. And ma'am, we'll be picking up Mrs. Bexley Hartley within the hour. After they left, my husband sat down heavily in the kitchen chair. I can't believe this. My son married someone who tried to kill you. He doesn't know. He thinks I'm paranoid, that I've always hated her for no reason. He'll know now. Maybe. Or maybe he'll find a way to blame me for this too. My phone rang. My son. I answered on speaker. Mom, what the hell is happening? Bexley's crying, saying you've made up insane accusations, that you sent lies to her job and her family. She's saying you're trying to have her arrested. I'm not trying. I have had her arrested. The police are on their way to your house right now. For what? Being mean to you? You can't arrest someone for hurt feelings, for attempted murder, for elder abuse, for identity fraud. Should I continue? Silence. That's insane. Bexley would never. Your wife's real name is Patricia Benson. 8 years ago, she was under investigation for abusing her first husband's mother. The woman died under suspicious circumstances. Patricia disappeared before charges could be filed. She changed her name and started over. 3 months ago, she started drugging me. I have proof. You're lying. Your father's sitting right here. He's seen everything. The police have seen everything. Her former in-laws have seen everything. And now everyone else will too. Why would she do that? That doesn't make any sense. Because I'm exactly who her first mother-in-law was. Observant. Protective. Unwilling to look away when something feels wrong. She isolated that woman until she was completely dependent, then got rid of her. She was trying to do the same to me. I heard Bexley's voice in the background, shrill and panicked. Don't listen to her. She's making this up because she hates me. Then explain Patricia Benson, I said calmly. Explain why you changed your name. Explain why you never told my son about your first marriage. Explain the medical report showing traces of my medication in my system at dangerous levels. More shouting in the background. My son, I said quietly. I love you. I have always loved you. But you married someone dangerous. Someone who has been systematically trying to eliminate me from your life so she could have complete control. The same way she did before. And I couldn't let that happen. Not to me, and not to you and Violet. Mom, I can't. I need to go. The police are here. The line went dead. My husband reached across the table and took my hand. You did the right thing. I hope so. What happens now? Now we wait. And we hope my son wakes up before it's too late. But I knew better. I'd seen the way he looked at her. The way he believed everything she said, even when it contradicted reality. She'd spent 3 years building her version of truth in his mind, making him doubt his own instincts, his own family. That's what people like Bexley, people like Patricia, do best. They find the cracks in your perception and fill them with poison until you can't remember what was real anymore. The next 72 hours were chaos. Bexley was arrested on 3 counts of attempted poisoning and 1 count of identity fraud. Her bail was set at $100,000. Her parents paid it immediately. My son stopped answering my calls entirely. Bexley's first husband reached out to me through my lawyer. His mother had been a vibrant woman until she moved in with them. 6 months later, she was dead. He'd never gotten over the guilt of not protecting her, of not seeing the signs until it was too late. I tried to warn people, he told me over the phone, but she was so good at playing the victim. By the time I understood what was happening, she was gone. I'm glad you stopped her. I'm sorry it took someone else getting hurt for people to believe what she's capable of. The media got hold of the story. Local woman arrested for attempted murder of mother-in-law was a headline no one could resist. The details were too sensational. The Instagram poll, the smashed dollhouse, the poisoning, the secret identity. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Bexley's friends started a GoFundMe for her legal defense, claiming she was the victim of a vindictive mother-in-law who couldn't let go. They raised $12,000 in 3 days. My brother created a counter fundraiser for elder abuse awareness. It raised $47,000 in the same period. The court of public opinion was split. Half saw me as a hero who'd protected herself and potentially saved my granddaughter from growing up with a dangerous mother. Half saw me as a bitter woman who'd destroyed a young family out of spite. I didn't care what strangers thought. I cared that my son wouldn't speak to me. I cared that I might never see Violet again. I cared that I'd done the right thing and lost everything anyway. 2 weeks after Bexley's arrest, my son filed for a restraining order against me. The petition claimed I was delusional, dangerous, and making false accusations that were tearing his family apart. He requested I be prohibited from contacting him, his wife, or his daughter for a minimum of 1 year. My lawyer fought it, brought evidence, medical records, police reports, testimony from witnesses. The judge reviewed everything for 4 hours before making his decision. Restraining order denied, but the judge added something. However, I'm ordering a temporary supervised visitation arrangement pending the outcome of Mrs. Hartley's trial. The grandmother may see her grandchild once weekly for 2 hours in a neutral location with a court-appointed supervisor present. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was something. The first supervised visit happened at a community center on a Tuesday afternoon. A woman named Delilah sat in the corner taking notes while I played with Violet. My son stayed in the parking lot refusing to come inside. Violet was 4 now. She'd grown so much in the 3 months since I'd seen her. She didn't understand why Mommy wasn't there, why we were in this strange room, why a stranger was watching us. "Grandma, when can I come to your house?" she asked, building a tower with blocks. "Soon, sweetheart. Mommy says you're sick, that you need help." My heart cracked. "Do I seem sick to you?" She studied me seriously. "No, you seem like Grandma." I pulled her close, breathed in the smell of her shampoo, memorized the weight of whisper what unsaid. "I lose so you too, either sick." After the visit, La approached. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I've been doing this job for 11 years. I've seen real danger, real abuse. What I saw today was a grandmother who loves her granddaughter. I'll be noting that in my report. Thank you." I drove home and cried for 2 hours straight. Bexley's trial was scheduled for 6 months out. Her lawyer was good, expensive. He immediately began building a defense based on my supposed mental decline. I was depressed, he claimed, jealous of my son's new family, creating elaborate fantasies to insert myself back into their lives. He subpoenaed my medical records, found the antidepressant I'd been prescribed after my mother died 2 years ago, tried to use it as evidence of instability. My lawyer countered with the Colorado police reports, with testimony from Bexley's first husband, with the security footage showing her accessing my pill bottle at my son's house. The pretrial motions alone took 3 months. During that time, I saw Violet every Tuesday, 2 hours, supervised. She'd tell me about preschool, about her friends, about the new cat they'd gotten. She never mentioned her mother's arrest, never asked why we couldn't go anywhere else. My son remained a ghost. I'd see his car in the parking lot, but he never came inside, never acknowledged. My husband tried talking to him twice. Both times, my son hung up within seconds. "He'll come around," my husband kept saying. "No, he won't. You don't know that." "I do." Because Bexley's still talking to him, still feeding him her version, and he's choosing to believe her because the alternative, accepting that he married someone who tried to kill his mother, is too painful. He's our son. He's her victim. There's a difference. The trial finally began on a cold Monday in November. The courthouse was packed. Media, Bexley's supporters, my supporters, family members from both sides. My son sat behind Bexley's defense table, his hand on her shoulder, his face set in determined loyalty. It hurt more than I expected. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. Medical records showing the timeline of my mysterious symptoms, lab results from the water I'd had tested, security footage timestamp matched to the onset of my worst episodes, testimony from my doctor explaining how the dosage found in my system would have been lethal if continued. Then came the Colorado evidence. Police reports detailing the investigation into Patricia Benson, hospital records from her first mother-in-law showing a similar pattern of unexplained symptoms, testimony from the woman's daughter describing how Patricia had isolated her mother, controlled her medication, limited her contact with family. "She did to that woman exactly what she was doing to you," the prosecutor said, looking directly at the jury. "And when that woman died, Patricia disappeared, changed her name, started over, found another family to infiltrate, another mother-in-law to eliminate." Bexley's lawyer objected constantly. The judge sustained most of them, but the jury heard enough. They heard about the Instagram poll. They heard about the smashed dollhouse. They heard about the systematic isolation. They heard about the medication found in my system. They heard it all. Bexley took the stand on day 4. She was brilliant, tearful but composed. She explained how overwhelming it had been to become a mother, how she'd felt judged constantly by me, how she'd created that Instagram poll as a joke, never thinking I'd see it. "I love my mother-in-law," she said, dabbing her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt her. I just wanted space to figure out motherhood without constant criticism." The prosecutor stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Hartley, you testified that you love your mother-in-law, is that correct?" "Yes." "Then can you explain why you sent her private medical information to your group chat? I have screenshots here showing you discussing her breast cancer scare with 12 people, without her permission." Bexley hesitated. "I was venting. I needed support. Support for your mother-in-law's medical condition that you weren't supposed to know about because you'd blocked her number? Can you explain why you tagged her location on social media 17 times despite her asking you to stop? I didn't think it mattered. Can you explain the security footage showing you and your mother-in-law's medication at your home? I was organizing. She's forgetful. I was trying to help. By crushing her blood pressure medication into her coffee? I never did that. We have footage of you accessing the medication. We have medical records showing dangerous levels of that same medication in her bloodstream. We have testimony from the company that monitors your home security system. On March 15th, you disabled the cameras for exactly 4 hours. The same 4 hours your mother-in-law visited for Sunday dinner. The same dinner after which she was hospitalized for dangerously low blood pressure. Can you explain that coincidence?" Bexley's face hardened, just for a moment, but the jury saw it. "I don't remember disabling anything. The company has records. Would you like to see them?" No, I believe you. I must have done it accidentally. 4 hours. Accidentally. Yes. The prosecutor paused. Let the word hang in the air. Mrs. Hartley, you testified your name is Bexley Ann Hartley. Is that correct? Yes. Have you ever gone by any other name? Her lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Mrs. Hartley, please answer the question. No. You've never used the name Patricia Benson? Silence. Mrs. Hartley, that was a long time ago. 8 years. You changed your name 8 years ago, shortly after the death of your first mother-in-law, Eleanor Benson, who died under suspicious circumstances while in your care, correct? I was never charged with anything because you disappeared before the investigation concluded. You changed your name and moved to a new state. Why would you do that if you had nothing to hide? I was grieving. I needed a fresh start. A fresh start from a police investigation? Objection, her lawyer shouted. Sustain. Rephrase. The prosecutor smiled. No further questions. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found Bexley guilty on 2 counts of attempted poisoning, not guilty on identity fraud. The evidence was clear on the poisoning. The name change was technically legal, even if suspicious. She was sentenced to 4 years in prison. My son stood up and walked out before the verdict was fully read. I sat there numb, as people congratulated me, as reporters asked for statements, as Bexley was led away in handcuffs, shooting me a look of pure hatred. I'd won, but I'd lost my son in the process. The supervised visits with Violet continued while my son figured out next steps. He filed for divorce 3 weeks after Bexley was imprisoned. His lawyer argued that since she'd be in prison for years and had lied about her identity, the marriage was fraudulent from the start. Violet would live with my son. Bexley would have no visitation rights until after her release. I thought maybe this meant he'd come back to me, that losing Bexley would wake him up. I was wrong. He moved 6 hours away, bought a small house near Bexley's parents, who'd offered to help with childcare. The supervised visits ended. My lawyer fought for grandparent rights. The court granted me 1 weekend per month. 4 days, that's all I got. 48 hours every 30 days. My son never spoke to me during drop-offs. He'd pull up to the agreed meeting spot, let Violet out, and drive away without a word. When I brought her back, he'd check his phone the entire time, refusing to make eye contact. You destroyed my life, he said once. Only once. 3 months after Bexley's sentencing. I'd tried to tell him about Violet's school performance, and he'd finally snapped. You couldn't just let me be happy. You had to ruin everything. She tried to kill me. So you say, but all I know is my wife is in prison. My daughter barely knows me anymore, and my mother is the reason for all of it. She was poisoning me. Maybe. Or maybe you really are paranoid. Maybe you saw what you wanted to see. Either way, you chose this. You chose revenge over family. I chose survival. Then I hope it was worth it. He drove away. I stood in the parking lot, watching his taillights disappear, and wondered if he was right. If somehow I could have handled this differently. If I could have been quieter, smaller, less confrontational. If I could have let Bexley win. But then I remembered Eleanor Benson. How she died alone, isolated, convinced by Patricia that her own children had abandoned her. How Patricia had controlled her medications, her phone calls, her entire world until there was nothing left but Patricia's version of reality. I remembered the dizzy spells, the confusion, the way my own body had started to betray me. I remembered the Instagram poll with my face circled, the 847 votes saying I should be erased. No, I hadn't had a choice. Sometimes survival looks like destruction. Sometimes protecting yourself means burning everything down. And sometimes the people you love most will hate you for refusing to die quietly. That's what nobody tells you about standing up to abuse. Everyone wants you to be strong until your strength makes them uncomfortable. They want you to fight back until your fighting inconveniences them. They want you to protect yourself as long as your protection doesn't disrupt their peace. My son wanted me to stay silent, to let Bexley slowly kill me so he could keep his perfect family intact. And he hated me for refusing. I didn't blame him entirely. She'd spent years rewriting his reality, making him doubt his instincts, training him to see her as the victim and me as the villain. That kind of manipulation doesn't undo itself just because she's in prison. He'd need years of therapy, maybe decades. Maybe he'd never fully understand what had happened to him, but Violet would. During our weekend visits, I didn't talk about her mother, didn't explain the trial or the prison or any of it. I just loved her, made her favorite meals, read her books, taught her to bake cookies, let her be a child. And I documented everything, not for court this time, for her. So when she was older and had questions, she'd have answers, truth, evidence, the real story of what had happened to her family. One Saturday afternoon, 6 months after the trial, Violet asked me a question. Grandma, why doesn't Daddy like you anymore? I'd been expecting this, dreading it. I carefully chose my words. Your daddy is very sad right now. When people are sad, sometimes they push away the people who love them most. It doesn't mean he doesn't love me. It just means he's hurting. Is he sad because Mommy went away? Yes, sweetheart. Where did Mommy go? She had to go somewhere for a while. She made some mistakes and needs time to think about them, like a timeout, something like that. She processed this. Grandma, did you make Mommy go into timeout? My heart stopped. Why do you ask that? Because Daddy said you. He said you told lies about Mommy and now she's gone. I pulled her onto my lap, looked into her eyes, those same eyes my son had when he was small. I never lied about your mother. I told the truth about something she did that was very wrong. And yes, that's why she went away. But I didn't do it to hurt your daddy. I did it because it was the right thing to do, even though it was hard. What did she do? When you're older, I'll explain everything. But right now, I need you to know that telling the truth is always right, even when it makes people angry, even when it costs you everything. Do you understand? She nodded solemnly. Daddy says lying is wrong. It is. Then you did the right thing. I hope so, sweetheart. She hugged me tight. I love you, Grandma. Even if Daddy doesn't right now. I held her and cried. 2 years passed. Bexley served her time quietly. No interviews, no statements, just silence. My son remarried. A woman named Fiona who worked as a pediatric nurse. She was kind to Violet during handoffs. Never tried to replace me, just acknowledged my existence with polite nods. He still wouldn't speak to me directly, but the hatred had faded into cold indifference. Progress, I suppose. Violet grew, started kindergarten, lost her first tooth, learned to ride a bike. I was there for all of it during our monthly weekends. Every moment documented, every memory preserved. My husband stayed strong through it all. He'd tried reaching out to my son dozens of times. Sometimes his calls were answered. Sometimes they'd talk for 5 minutes about weather and sports and nothing real, but it was something. Then one afternoon, my husband had a heart attack. He survived, but it was serious. Triple bypass surgery, 6 weeks of recovery. I called my son, left message. Your father's in the hospital, room 342. He'd love to see you. He didn't come. 3 days later, Violet's drawing arrived in the mail. A picture of her grandfather in a hospital bed with hearts around it. Get well soon, Grandpa. I love you. Daddy won't take me to see you, but Grandma will. My husband cried when I showed it to him. He's really not coming, he said quietly. No. How did we lose him? We didn't. Bexley took him, and he's choosing not to come back. He's our son. I know. On the 4th day, my son appeared in the hospital doorway. He looked older, tired. His hair was starting to gray at the temples. I was sitting beside my husband's bed. We both stared. Fiona made me come, he said flatly. She said if I didn't see my father after a heart attack, she'd leave me. So I'm here. But I'm not staying long. My husband's voice was weak. Thank you for coming. My son approached the bed carefully, like he was visiting a stranger. The doctors say you're going to be fine. I am. Good. Awkward silence. Your mother saved my life, my husband said. She called 911 when I collapsed. Did CPR until the ambulance arrived. Without her, I wouldn't be here. My son's jaw tightened. I'm glad she was there. She saved my life once before, too. When Bexley was poisoning her, she was trying to save yours, too. And Violet's. You know that, right? Dad, I don't want to talk about this. I do. Because I'm getting old and I almost died and I'm tired of pretending. Your mother did the right thing. A hard thing. A thing that cost her everything. And you punished her for it. She destroyed my family. Bexley destroyed your family. Your mother just exposed it. There's a difference. You don't understand. I understand you're my son and I love you. But I also understand your mother is a hero and you've treated her like a villain. And I understand that life is short and someday I really will die. And you'll have to live with the fact that you wasted years being angry at the wrong person. My son stood frozen. I'm not asking you to forgive everything today, my husband continued, but I am asking you to think about who actually hurt you, who actually lied, who actually destroyed the life you thought you had. And I'm asking you to consider that maybe your mother saved you from something much worse. My son looked at me for the first time in 2 years. Really looked. I don't know how to come back from this, he said quietly. One step at a time, I said. That's all any of us can do. He left after 20 minutes, but he came back the next day, and the day after that. Never for long, never with much to say. But he showed up. When my husband was discharged, my son helped him into the house, carried his medications inside, made sure he was settled. Before leaving, he paused at the door. Mom, he said, not looking at me. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. It wasn't everything, but it was something. Thank you, I whispered. 6 months later, Bexley was released early for good behavior. She moved back to Colorado, got a job in retail, started posting on social media again under a new name. I got an alert from the private investigator I'd kept on retainer. She's dating someone. He has an elderly mother. I called the Colorado Police Department, provided them with all my documentation. They said they'd keep an eye on the situation. A week later, the man broke up with Bexley. His mother had done a background check and found the trial records. They wanted nothing to do with Patricia Bexley, whoever she was. She moved again and again, each time trying to start fresh, each time her past caught up. Eventually, she gave up trying to date men with families. Last I heard, she was living alone in Nevada, working overnight shifts at a casino. Good. My son and I rebuilt slowly. Therapy helped, both individual and family sessions. Violet sat in some of them, old enough now to ask real questions. We answered honestly, showed her evidence, let her form her own conclusions. Mommy was sick, she said one day. Not in her body, in her mind. Yes. And you protected yourself, like they teach us at school. Yes. I'm glad you did, even though it made Daddy sad. 3 years after the trial, my son invited me to dinner, at his house, with Fiona and Violet. A real family dinner. It was awkward, but it was real. I've been thinking a lot, he said over dessert, about everything that happened. I talked to Bexley's first husband. He contacted me through a mutual connection, wanted to make sure Violet was safe. And he told me things. About his mother, about the investigation, things that matched what you said, things I didn't want to believe. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. You were right. I just couldn't see it, or didn't want to. She'd convinced me you were the problem, that you were controlling and jealous and trying to ruin our happiness. And I believed her because it was easier than accepting I'd married someone dangerous. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Mom, for everything, for not protecting you, for not believing you, for abandoning you when you needed me most. I don't know how to make up for that. You're here now, I said. That's enough. It wasn't, really. Years of pain don't vanish with one conversation. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But it was a start. Violet climbed into my lap. Grandma gets to come to my birthday party next week. And Christmas. And every Sunday dinner forever. Forever? I asked. Forever, my son agreed. We didn't talk about Bexley much after that. She existed in our past, a cautionary tale about trusting intuition and protecting yourself even when it costs everything. The Instagram poll that started it all was long deleted, but I still had the screenshot saved in a folder labeled evidence. Sometimes I'd look at it. The 847 votes, the laughing emojis, the casual cruelty of people who had no idea what they were voting for. If you could erase one person from this family, who would you choose? They'd chosen me, but I was still here, older, wiser, scarred but surviving. And that's the thing about being underestimated, about being dismissed, about being voted off the island. Sometimes the person they try to erase is the one who refuses to disappear, the one who documents everything, the one who builds their case quietly while everyone else is laughing, the one who wins. Not because they wanted war, not because they enjoyed destruction, but because survival isn't optional. And sometimes protecting yourself means burning down everything they built on lies. My son asked me once, years later, if I had any regrets. Yes, I said honestly. I regret not seeing who she was sooner. I regret every dinner I sat through, every holiday I was excluded from, every moment I doubted myself instead of trusting my instincts. But do you regret sending that email, starting everything? I thought about Eleanor Benson, about the elderly mother who died alone, isolated, convinced her family had abandoned her. I thought about the dizzy spell, the confusion, the way my body had betrayed me. I thought about Violet growing up with a mother who saw people as obstacles to eliminate. No, I said. I don't regret it at all. Because here's what I learned. Some battles aren't about winning. They're about refusing to disappear, about saying no when everyone else expects silence, about choosing truth even when lies would be easier. Bexley thought posting that Instagram poll was declaring war. She was wrong. I'd been at war for 3 years. She just hadn't realized it until I'd already won. And now, sitting at Sunday dinner with my son, his wife, and my granddaughter, watching Violet laugh at her dad's terrible jokes, I understood something else too. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just survival. Sometimes it's living long enough to see the truth win. Sometimes it's sitting at a table with the people you love, the ones you fought to protect, and knowing you did the right thing even when it cost you everything. The Instagram poll had asked who should be erased. They'd voted for me, but I was still here, and I always would be, because that's what survivors do. We stay, we fight, we win, and we never let anyone erase us, not without a war they'll never forget.